Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Eduardo, and I am a student in the doctoral program in operational research at the Technological Institute of Aeronautics in partnership with the Federal University of São Paulo. I thank my advisors, Drs. Luiz Leduino and Marcos dos Santos, for my incentive to participate in this symposium. I apologize in advance because I don't speak English very well.
No problem, we can understand you very good.
Okay. I will talk about the application of AHP and TOPSIS methods for the selection of instructors in the Brazilian Air Force. And this topic is important because this application can be implemented in other similar decision-making problem in other contexts, advancing the frontier of knowledge on the application of multi-criteria decision-making MCDA in personnel selection. I will follow this roadmap for the presentation. In the introduction, I will talk about the context of the decision-making problem. Then I will make a brief summary of the literature review. Then I will present the objective of this work and the methodology adopted. Then I will explain how the data was analyzed and talk about some research limitations. Finally, I will present the conclusions and reference usage. Well, first, it is necessary to understand the context of the decision-making problem. The School of Improvement of Aeronautical Officers is responsible for the continued training of the subaltern and intermediate officers of the Brazilian Air Force, enabling them to assume high-level advisory functions, composing the general staff of the various military organizations of the force. The course of improvement of aeronautical officers taught by the school is one of the legal prerequisites for the promotion to the first post of senior officer. The instructors who make up your faculty are selected from your training classes in this postgraduate school. It is observed that in isolation, the very high student academic performance does not disqualify the last place in the class for the function of instructors of the school. Moreover, the way the selection process is conducted reduces the relative relevance of the other criteria, as they end up being little explored in advising the commander. This work aims to improve this decision-making process, proposing an ordering that considers the relative importance of all criteria used, giving more clarity in the selection of new instructors. NABE analyzed a better way to select personnel for a company. The traditional selection method looks only at the curriculum and is not always accurate. This study found that by using a combination of the analytic hierarchy process, AHP, and technique for order preference by similarity to an ideal solution, TOPSIS method, it was possible to find the best person for the job. It was also found that this combined method was more efficient than the traditional method. The AHP method consists in reflection on the functioning of the human mind when evaluating alternatives to a complex decision-making problem. This method allows for dealing with tangible and intangible values of the decision-making problems because it allows the creation of measures for qualitative variables based on subjective judgments of decision makers. This method allows you to compare the criteria eventually to calculate their weights. The TOPSIS is a compensatory multi-criteria decision method. This ordering technique uses the Euclidean distance between each alternative and the positive ideal solution, PIS, and the negative ideal solution, and recommends the best ranking of alternatives for decision makers. The objective of this work is to order 67 students, candidates for the nomination of instructor. The students were submitted to the evaluation of the 6 criteria currently adopted by school. The motivation for these research questions whether the multi-criteria decision analysis can be used in the decision-making process in personal selection problems. This article aims to demonstrate that the combined application of AHP and TOPSIS methods in a ranking problem improves the decision-making process of noting new instructors in a postgraduate school of the Brazilian Air Force, generating a more reliable response and reducing the cognitive effort of the decision maker.
Carlos, I do apologize for interrupting. You already used the half of your time. I just want to get your attention. You have about 8 more minutes.
Oh yeah.
Maybe if you don't mind, we should move on your application if it's okay for you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The design, research design, the action space of this deterministic decision problem was characterized by the discrete set of alternatives. The alternatives and criteria, 6 criteria and 67 alternatives. The AHP methods was applied to define the weights of the criteria. This figure illustrates the hierarchical structure of this problem. The 6 criteria used by school for the indication of new instructors were considered in this study. Final average of disciplines attended, the grade of the oral presentation of the course conclusion work, subjective evaluation of the instructor guiding the group's work, subjective evaluation of the course completion work advisor, horizontal evaluation, and evaluation of psychopedagogical advisor. based on the pairwise comparison of the AHP, using AHP, the weights were calculated according to table 2. The consistency ratio is more 10%. The consequence metrics can be seen in the table 3. In the left column are the alternatives and 6 criteria. After ranking the alternatives using the TOPSIS method, the result was compared with the real choice made by the decision maker. The table 4 shows the results of this ranking, in which epsilon represents the proximity index of an alternative I compared to PIS and NIS. In this case, 88.24% of candidates appointed to the role of instructor were in the first 2 quartiles. This is the comparison. In green, the alternative chosen. In red, rejected. Limitations, I'll talk there. This work limitations were identified in the research. The first one refers to the emergence of new data after the final ranking calculations during the advisory meeting for the choice of new instructors, which contributed to the divergence between the proposal and the actual choices. Another limitation concerned the use of Euclidean distance applied in R6 space. The application of Mahalanobis distance is recommended, for example. This application describes a real case of the combined application of AHP and TOPSIS methods to improve the process of selection instructors in a military school. This proposal can be incorporated into a similar decision-making process in the Brazilian Air Force, in other armed forces, and in civilian institutions. It was observed that candidates closer to PIS received more nominations, and those closer to NIS received more rejections. In other words, the combined application of AHP and TOPSIS methods was effective in ordering the alternatives. My key reference for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlos. I think you used AHP to evaluate your criteria, but then you used TOPSIS to rank the alternatives, right? Because you have so many alternatives.
Right.
Or maybe you could have used, again, AHP, but the rating mode for the alternatives, because you cannot compare so many alternatives in AHP. But I couldn't get the meaning of your criteria. I was not expecting you would conclude in such a few minutes. So we still have a few minutes. Could you please open your slides again that you have criteria C1, C2? I think they are already tangibles. You had criteria slides. Can you show it again, please? I couldn't get the meanings of them. C1, C2. Before, here. The final, for instance, C1, the final average of the disciplines attended, ranged from 0 to 10. So what is the meaning of this criteria and also the C2? You are ranking the instructors for aircrafts, right?
Yeah.
The grade for the oral presentation of the course conclusion work ranges from 0 to 10. So I couldn't get the point. How could you compare these things, C1, C2, C3? They already are like tangibles.
I compare the criteria using the fundamental scale of SATI with a decision maker. The decision maker compare using.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make everybody busy with this. I mean, I couldn't get the meaning of the criteria. After that, I understand you use SATI scale, but what is the meaning of C1? I mean, as a criteria, I couldn't get that point, but anyway, maybe I couldn't get it, so no problem, okay. Any other question for Carlos? Thank you, Carlos, for your answer. Any question? I think there is no more except me. Thank you.